What's up, guys? Welcome back to another man versus deer video. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a review on Mountain Mike's European skull mount kit. Let's get after it.
This is probably one of my bigger bucks to date.
Guys, I cannot believe that actually worked.
Looks like a double long shot. It was hot, really hot.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new to the channel, make sure to smack that subscribe button. Definitely like the video, and for sure leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. So like I said earlier, in today's video, we're talking about Mountain Mike's European skull mounting kit. I'm doing a review on it. I'm going to tell you what I like. I'm going to tell you what I don't like. And then I'm going to tell you or show you better how these things look in comparison to a real deer skull. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what made me go this route. This is actually my first set of deer antlers from my very first deer that I ever killed. Killed it with a 30-30. And I initially just did a skull mount, or a skull cap. I just cut the skull cap out. And over the years that got nasty, so I just cut the antlers off and I had them laying around for a long time. Started killing some other deer. Really liked how European mounts look, and I wanted to do something similar for this set. And that's when I came across Mountain Mike's European mounts. These mounts are a great option for someone who doesn't want to mess with boiling a head. They're a great option for people who are out of state and can't legally bring back a deer head in its entirety. So they definitely have their place, and overall I'm really happy with how this one turned out. So the assembly on this was actually pretty easy. It only took me about 15 minutes in its entirety, and it was relatively simple. The instructions are right on the back of the package. The only tools I needed was a C-clamp or some kind of vise to hold the antlers down while I was drilling them. You needed a drill gun. You needed a 1/8 inch drill bit, and you needed a Phillips bit for screwing everything together once you're done. So the first steps in putting this thing together were to open the package, and you got three main pieces of hardware. You got the initial skull cap, you got the main part of the skull, the bottom part of the skull, and then you got the 4 screws that it requires to put this thing together. 2 of those screws go from the skull plate into the antler, and 2 of those screws go from the bottom or main part of the skull into the skull plate. So to start the assembly, I opened everything and got it all laid out. I then used the C-clamp to hold my antler down, and then I used the skull plate and I kind of mocked it up to where I thought the skull plate needed to be with that antler, and then I used the 1/8 inch drill bit and the drill gun to pilot a hole from the skull plate into the antler, and I did that for both sides. Once I had done that, I switched over to the Phillips bit, and I ran the screws that came with the skull in from the bottom of the skull cap into the antlers, and I didn't tighten them until I got them most of the way tight, and then I messed around with the antlers a little bit until I got them into the exact positioning I wanted, and then I tightened them down. Once they were tightened down, I took that skull plate and I took the main part of the skull, and I used the small screws that came with everything. And there's a little hole on the bottom part of the main part of the skull that those screws go into, and they screw from the bottom part of the skull into the skull cap. Once that was done, I mounted this on one of the plaques that I make, and that's the end result. It only took about 15 minutes, and it was relatively easy to put together. All right, guys, so this is the part of the video where I'm going to breeze through some of the pros and the cons to this type of mount. The pros are, number one, it's cheap. This is only $24. You can't beat the price on that. 2, it's easy. It only took like 15 minutes and a couple of screws. Anyone who has basic tools can do this, and they can do it really without instructions, but the instructions come right on the back of the package. So it's super, super easy to put this together. And third, it's a really good looking way to display your antlers. If you can't bring a buckhead back across state lines, or you didn't do a Euro mount up front, but then you change your mind later, or maybe you just find a set of sheds or a dead head and you don't want to mess with cleaning all that up, this is a really good, cheap, easy way to display those antlers, and it looks pretty good. The cons, in my opinion, and this is the main con, is that if you killed a buck and you really want the antlers to maintain their integrity or their shape, it's really hard to do that. You got to take a lot of measurements and you got to fidget with it. In my opinion, it's really hard to get it back to perfect. I don't think it's ever going to get back to the exact way it looked when you killed that deer, because you're taking it off the original skull and putting it on this one, and it's almost impossible to get those antlers back to 100% the way they were before. The second big miss for me on this one, and this is pretty well a tie for like my least favorite thing about this, is the skull is too wide. From a length perspective, from top to bottom, they nailed it. It's about the same size as all my other deer skulls on the wall. But right here, from eye socket to eye socket, it is really wide, and it makes that skull appear meaty and thick, and it doesn't look like a whitetail skull, in my opinion. Right up here, it's just too wide, and it makes that skull look meatier than what an actual whitetail skull does. And then the last thing is, this thing is too clean. It doesn't have any actual holes in it, like where a real skull has a lot of fine holes in the nasal cavity and stuff like that. And then a real skull, no matter how many times you whiten it, it's gonna have some yellow areas, it's gonna have some shadows, and it's gonna, you know, it's just gonna have a look to it that this one doesn't have, because it's plastic and it's too clean. And you can definitely spot this in a room full of other European mounts. With all that being said, however, if a regular European mount is not an option, or you've skipped it as an option up front and you want to go back and do something like that, I do think this is a really good way to preserve that animal. All right, guys, so it's basically the end of the video, and I'm going to take a short amount of time and give you some close-ups and show you what the mountain mics looks like and what an actual deer skull looks like. And then I will give you my conclusion, and we'll close this video out. All right, guys, so in conclusion, I think this is a pretty good buy, and I think it's a good purchase if you're just wanting a really good way to display your deer antlers. I think it's all about expectations. If you buy this thing and you're expecting it to look like an actual deer skull, you're gonna be disappointed. But if you're just wanting something that is a really good way to display your antlers, I think you're gonna be pretty happy with this purchase. I hope this video helped you guys out. I hope you like the content. I hope you like the other content on the channel. If you do, make sure you smack that subscribe button. Definitely like the video, and for sure leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I also have a shop. There's a link in the description to a shop, and it's a taxidermy shop of mine. I run a little business on the side. That's kind of how I fund this channel. I sell plaques just like this one. I have Wingbone Calls, I have turkey fan mounts, and I have a ton of different other European style plaque options. Any purchases made directly support the channel. I really, really appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you in the next one.